You're here for the deep dive, where we help you get smart, fast, on the big stuff, no fluff, just the core info you need.
Yeah, exactly. Forget wading through endless takes online.
Today, we're tackling something pretty significant. An executive order issued just yesterday, April 28th, 2025. It's called Protecting American Communities from Criminal Aliens.
And we're going straight to the source of the actual government document, our mission today.
Let's unpack it, figure out its key pieces, what it says it wants to achieve, and, the actual steps it demands.
Basically get a clear handle on a policy that's bound to be talked about a lot.
Okay, let's dive right in. The order kicks off pretty strongly, asserting federal power.
It says flat out, immigration, national security, foreign policy, that's federal turf.
Right, and they even cite the Constitution, Article 2, for security and foreign relations, and Article 4, Section 4, about protecting states from invasion.
And mentioning those specific parts like Article 4, Section 4, and invasion, that's not accidental. It's laying down a specific legal argument right from the start.
Groundwork for what comes next, maybe.
Could be. It definitely signals they expect challenges, and they're grounding their authority in the Constitution and this idea of inherent national sovereignty.
Okay, so after establishing that authority, the order describes the situation at the southern border. And the language is, well, it's intense.
It really is. It talks about unchecked millions of aliens illegally entering the United States, paints a picture of serious public safety and national security threats.
And it names cartels, transnational criminal groups, terrorists, other malign actors.
Yeah, and it characterizes the whole thing as an invasion. That specific word choice is really important.
Why invasion specifically? What's the significance there?
Well, legally and politically, calling something an invasion can imply a state of emergency. It's often used to justify, stronger federal actions to fulfill its duty to protect the states. It frames the whole issue in a very particular, urgent way.
Right. So with that invasion backdrop set, the order then focuses sharply on sanctuary jurisdictions.
And it defines those as places that obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws.
That definition seems key. Is it a standard definition?
Not necessarily a universally agreed upon one, and that's crucial because the order actually tasks the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security to create a list of these places within 30 days.
A list.
Okay.
And then what happens?
Well, first, they have to tell these jurisdictions they're on the list, notify them of their defiance, as the order puts it.
Defiance.
Yeah.
Wow. And it warns them about potentially breaking federal criminal laws, too.
Exactly. That notification isn't just a heads up. It's a formal step, putting them on notice for potential legal trouble.
And the order gets specific about which laws. It mentions things like obstruction of justice.
Yeah, 18 U.S.C. 1501 and so on.
Unlawfully harboring or hiring undocumented immigrants.
That's 8 U.S.C. 1324.
Conspiracy against the U.S., conspiracy to impede federal law enforcement.
18 U.S.C. 371 and 372.
And even RICO, the anti-racketeering law.
Right, 18 U.S.C. 1961 and following. Applying RICO here in the context of supposedly helping people violate immigration law, that's a pretty strong signal.
How so?
RICO is usually aimed at organized crime, like the mob. Using it suggests the executive branch views the actions of these jurisdictions as potentially very serious, coordinated criminal activity. It's a significant escalation.
Okay, and it doesn't stop there, right? It also mentions potential violations related to discriminating against Americans or violating civil rights.
Yes, laws prohibiting discrimination in favor of illegal aliens and laws protecting American civil rights are also invoked as potential grounds for action. It's a broad sweep of potential legal challenges.
So a jurisdiction gets listed, gets notified. What are the actual consequences laid out in the order?
This is where the teeth really show. The order directs the heads of all executive departments and agencies, working with OMB, the Budget Office, to identify federal funds going to these places.
Funds like grants.
Yeah.
Contracts.
Exactly. Grants, contracts, any federal money flow. And the goal is to figure out which of those funds can be suspended or even permanented, cut off.
Wow. Okay, so using federal dollars as leverage.
Precisely. It's significant financial pressure. The involvement of OMB shows it's tied into the administration's budget strategy, too.
But what if a jurisdiction gets notified, maybe faces funding cuts, but still doesn't change its policies?
Then the order says the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security will pursue all necessary legal remedies and enforcement measures to ensure compliance.
All necessary legal remedies.
Ugh.
That sounds incredibly broad.
It is, and likely intentionally so. It could mean lawsuits, challenging state or local laws directly. It could mean boosting federal law enforcement presence in those areas. It leaves a lot of room for the federal government to act forcefully.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. The order also talks about federal benefits, right?
Yes, it directs the Secretary of Homeland Security, working with the Attorney General, to come up with guidance or rules for verifying eligibility for federal public benefits within these sanctuary jurisdictions.
So checking if people getting benefits are actually eligible, specifically in those areas.
That seems to be the aim, and it applies whether the verification is done by the government or, say, a private contractor handling benefits.
What kind of benefits are we talking about?
The order points to the definition in 8 U.S.C. 1611C, which covers a range of federal public benefits. Think things like retirement, welfare, health, disability, housing, food assistance, unemployment. It's quite extensive.
Implementing that kind of verification sounds complicated.
It could be very complex, yeah. Especially coordinating across different programs and possibly involving private groups. It definitely raises practical questions about resources and how it would actually work on the ground.
But then there's another section titled Equal Treatment of Americans. What's that about?
This part directs the Attorney General, again consulting with Homeland Security, to identify state or local laws or policies that they believe unlawfully favor non-citizens over American citizens.
And if they find such laws?
They're supposed to take action against them, challenge them if they're unlawful, preempted by federal law, or unenforceable for some other reason.
Does it give examples?
It does. 2 specific ones. First, state laws giving in-state tuition rates to undocumented students, but not to out-of-state American citizens. The order suggests this might violate a specific federal law, 8 U.S.C. 1623.
Okay. Tuition, what's the second example?
Laws that might favor aliens in criminal charges or sentencing compared to citizens.
So, targeting specific state policies they see as creating an uneven playing field.
Essentially, yes. Using these examples makes it clearer what kinds of state or local actions are in the crosshairs under this part of the order.
Got it. Now, near the end, there are usually some standard clauses in these orders, right? The fine print.
Absolutely. And they are important. The order states it doesn't mess with the existing legal powers of federal departments or agencies.
Or the Office of Management and Budget's role in budgets and legislation.
Correct. It also clearly states that everything in the order has to be done consistent with applicable law and, crucially, subject to the availability of appropriations.
Meaning, Congress still controls the money needed to actually do all this.
Exactly. No money, no action, potentially, and maybe the most important piece of fine print.
Let me guess, you can't sue based on this order.
You got it.
Right there.
It explicitly says the order does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party. That limits legal challenges based directly on the order itself.
Okay, so stepping back, we've really walked through the mechanics of this executive order.
Yeah, and it paints a picture of a very assertive federal stance on immigration enforcement.
Definitely seems like a significant potential shift in how the federal government interacts with states and cities it deems uncooperative.
It's the combination of tactics that's striking legal threats, potential funding cuts, direct mandates on benefits and state laws. It's a multi-front approach.
Which, given how contentious immigration and federal versus state power already are.
Oh, this is almost guaranteed to trigger major debate. And probably lawsuits. Lots of them.
It really makes you wonder about the ripple effects, doesn't it? Like, how will this actually play out on the ground, in the courts?
And what resources are needed? How do you even start verifying benefits eligibility on this scale or systematically challenging state laws across the country?
Plus, what's the impact on the communities themselves? The ones labeled sanctuaries that might lose funding for, essential services.
There are huge practical questions too. How exactly will they define and list these jurisdictions? What's the precise criteria? How do they decide which federal funds get cut? The order sets the direction, but the implementation details are massive.
For sure. If you listening want to dig deeper yourself, looking into how sanctuary jurisdiction is defined legally or isn't, sometimes would be a start.
Yeah, or researching those specific federal laws mentioned, RECO, the harboring statute, the tuition one. Understanding the legal basis they're claiming is key.
And maybe looking into how federal funding actually works. The process for suspending or terminating grants and contracts, that gets into the weeds, but it's where the rubber meets the road for the financial pressure part.
Definitely. Ultimately, this order pushes hard on fundamental questions about who holds power in our system, federal versus state and local, and it adds another intense layer to the ongoing national conversation about immigration.
Understanding the nuts and bolts of this document, like we've tried to do here, feels pretty essential for anyone trying to follow that conversation.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Hopefully this gives you a much clearer picture of what's actually in this executive order. But keep thinking. What does it really signal about the future of federal-local relationships when immigration enforcement becomes this central, this contested, something to mull over?